Hey, so I'm just gonna do a really quick one before I'm gonna do a review for the group, but I'll do this one for Twitter so I can share with everybody, just to give you an overall idea. Some of the trades I've shared publicly, like EOS, right? So EOS, um, I talk about with in our educational stuff all the time about how when you move sideways and you get a Bart Simpson or even just a slight downward retracement, just a minor correction, you could often have a great opportunity for a strong rebound play. So if you look at like what you're seeing here, you essentially have a pennant, right? It's a bull pennant. But when you have this bull pennant, you're getting a correction without having a strong retracement. So yeah, I got stopped out at 30% profit for half of my position on EOS, but I can buy back in. I just haven't done so yet. I think we're going to come back down and retest. I was kind of busy dealing with the babies for hours. I think we're going to come back down and retest this support one more time before we bounce up. We'll see. If it does start running up from here, I can buy late. It's not the end of the world. But just to give you an idea of why it's so great, you can look at the RSI. See how the RSI was drastically overbought, which means you're going to see a correction. But instead of correcting really hard and having the price drop another 7 or 8 or 12% down, you get a much more limited correction, right? A more modest drop in the actual price on the price action, but you get a reset of your indicators. You'll notice on the stochastic, which isn't up on this chart right now, but with the Stoke, you also have a reset of the indicator, and it's an oscillator. So it goes back down to the bottom, and now you have an opportunity to move up again without having that indicator restricting that movement or indicating a potential retracement earlier than you would otherwise have it. So in this case, it's a really great setup and an excellent opportunity to get back in. And you're going to see a floor form on the RSI probably pretty soon. But a lot of that has to do with BTC, which is what I want to show you next. So that's with EOS. I shared my Ethereum trade as well. My Ethereum trade, I didn't actually get stopped out. My charts have stop losses that aren't exactly where my stop losses actually are. It's just sort of a general range. So even though that wick very slightly crossed over this stop loss here, it didn't actually stop me out on my own personal trade. We're getting a ton of support from my Ichima supports. For those not familiar with my Ichima model, I have a few videos available to the public on it, but I use the 55 and 99 hourly EMAs and the top and the bottom leading span A and leading span B of the Ichimoku cloud as my 4 primary dynamic supports. So if I say IDSs, that's Ichima dynamic supports. And it's those 4, and those are the dynamic support levels I use in order to ID potential reversal points or ideal entries to use those to protect my stop loss. So right now we're riding, you can see the 55. We're pretty much holding right at the 55 on a ton of candles in a row. So that's a really strong support. We did dip down slightly on a couple wicks, but besides that, pretty much the candle bodies and most of the trading are happening right at that 55. Given how we're holding, I don't actually think we're going to drop down much further. If we do, we will probably correct a little bit further to the bottom of the cloud to this support, which is at 135. I don't think that's going to happen. I think 138 right here, this 138.70, 139 is probably the floor of where we would correct here. But again, this all relates to BTC. The reason all my trades did so well is because I had called BTC's move, and I knew that based on the support we were seeing in the range that we were trading in, I put out videos for like 2 weeks talking about the range I had here in the square plus the other supports I have, and how those really strong supports led me to believe that we were going to continue to hold and eventually break out. It's probably about an 80-20. So an 80% chance we were going to break up, 20% chance we broke down. The second we broke 3,800 and we closed at 3,800, I said that's the target. If we can close above 3,800, we're going to keep running up. And sure enough, that's what happened. We got the breakout, and my alt trades ran accordingly. I think we're going to continue, but we had to correct slightly. Given how we're holding and we're seeing a reset of the other indicators, right? Look at the stochastic and look at the RSI, right? We have a trending down on the RSI. We got a trend on the stochastic, along with the price action. Well, it's still moving up slightly, but more recently correcting. That's an indication that we're able to correct without losing too much value. So the price action is not seeing a huge strong drop. It's a more modest correction, but we still have a reset of the indicators. So normally I would say, we haven't really retraced that far. We've just been kind of moving sideways. So we probably have to correct before we can move up. But when you have indicators that are actually retracing correctly and they're resetting, and you have oscillators that are resetting to their lower value, their lower state, that gives you an opportunity to move back up without having to see that strong retracement. And that's what we're seeing here with BTC. So essentially, if BTC remains above the 55 EMA, we're going to see a really strong run from here. If the 55 EMA meets up with the price action up around here over the next 4 or 5 hourly candles, we could see a drop if the EMA fails because we don't have another support for a little bit. But I'm pretty confident we're going to keep moving up. I don't really think we're going to have a big dump unless there's a huge sell-off. I can't see us actually dropping. I think we're going to continue this run. We just needed a cool-off period, and that's what we just got. I'll dive into this a little more detail with the group. So for those in the group, hit me up. I'll be in Discord until the babies start crying again, obviously. All right, thanks.